Hello and welcome to Trends Talk. I'm Sarah Sladek, CEO of XYZ University, and I am so excited to be launching this series about trends. Each month, 2024, we're going to have 12 guests talking about 12 different trends. And what a great way to start the year. But with my nerdy best friend, Beth Z, we're going to talk about trends in technology, which I noticed today that one of the headlines on LinkedIn is that AI is like the hot new job. So we can talk about that a little bit. But audience, thank you for joining us. You're joining us on LinkedIn Live as well as Big Marker. For those of you who registered, we're going to go through 5 questions. I have 5 questions for Beth, 5 rounds, and then we're going to open up for audience Q&A. So you can put your questions in the comments field, and we'll do a little speed round of Q&A that way. Again, welcome. Let's get started and talk about trends. So round 1 for Beth Z. What stat, trend, or data point best summarizes how technology is changing our lives here and now? And Beth, feel free to also give a shout out, tell a little bit about yourself as you answer this first question.
Well, let's say that I am incredibly honored to be the very first person to kick off this year. And not that I'm trying to, toot my own horn, but it's logical that you're starting with this technology thing because this is shaping so many areas, and this trend is so deep. So I'm Beth Z. I'm your nerdy best friend. I speak Chat GPT. Let's just leave it there. This is my job. You asked what stat, trend, or data point best summarizes how technology is changing our life here and now. And I'm going to go back to November 30th, 2022. And that's when ChatGPT released its research preview for all of us, that all of a sudden said, hey, we're going to try out this little way to deal with this little technology that we've been working on. Very few people knew about it when the research preview of ChatGPT came out. And it was then, as soon as people discovered it, the fastest growing platform ever. It surpassed TikTok by hundreds of millions. Go ahead, fact check me, I'm probably wrong, but millions of users overnight just popping in to see what this was all about because it was so mind blowing. So that stat, even though it's from November 30th, 2022, is the understanding of why this is so important. The trend is happening so fast, and let's relate that to another stat. In 2007, the first iPhone came out. And it was like mind blowing. It was everything that everybody wanted it to be. And everybody was like, oh my God, this is too much. But it took years for every one of us to have a supercomputer phone in our pockets at the same time. This took hours in comparisons, days in comparisons. And every single day we are having more advancements there. So that stat is a little older, but it really was where we are today.
Right. It's showing the speed of change. I remember being at an association conference, probably early 2000s, and the speaker talked about in a few years, you're going to have a supercomputer in the palm of your hand. And I remember people were doubled over laughing. Like we couldn't even fathom it, right? And now I am just curious as a follow-up question before we go to round 2. What is that saying about our society that ChatGPT like skyrocketed like that? What do you chalk that up to, Beth?
If you may be one of the people who hasn't gotten into Chat GPT, you may not understand what it does, but it writes for you.
Yeah.
It gives ideas, it organizes things for you. It changes the dynamic between you and a blank piece of paper. And the first time anybody ever sees this, it's like this. Mind blown. Just it's over. And so the fact that when you see it, you understand the depth of the change
Mm.
That's the factor. Unlike the iPhone, where you see it and you say, for the nerds, this is a change. For people who use a technology every day, this is a change. When I first met my husband, bless his heart, he had a phone and I had a Blackberry and he had a phone. And he said, "This is a phone. You make phone calls on it. It is not a thing." And then he got his first Blackberry and he's like, "I shall now look at my phone at all times."
Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing, the difference. But that change took such a long time. But as soon as you see it, this the first time you say, write a blog post about associations needing to attract younger members and a quote statistics from the Sarah Sladek, it just it changes everything. So people can immediately see that. And I think that's the major difference. It's not just something that would be a nice to have. It's something that if people see it and say, this is going to change everything.
Yeah, amazing. I guess as a creative, someone who likes to write, I'm like, really? Y'all are cheating. Like, use your brain. But let's go to round two. Round two. Next question. All right, that's still round one. Okay, here we go. What emerging technology is likely to have the greatest impact on our workplaces in the next 2 years? And I just want to give a quick shout out. We have people tuning into this from all over the world. So, shout out to our friends in Holland. Thank you for joining, as well as some of these other countries. But yes, we're all inquiring minds want to know next 2 years, what's on the horizon here?
Beats me. Sorry, I come with my own sound effects. No,
I love.
um, I say beats me, but it's so hard right now to figure out where we're going because not only do we have this mind blowing technology that's popping in, we also have brake lights for this mind blowing technology that are trying to appear. Just today, I read an article about how there is a new kind of software called Nightshade that will help artists reclaim their style from the image generator tools. There's one called Glaze and there's one called Nightshade. And Nightshade just is setting records for the number of people downloading it, trying to protect their intellectual property.
Mm,
So we have this insane technology that can do so much. We have crazy lawsuits, crazy copyright infringement situations, crazy ethical questions, crazy privacy questions that are coming up right next to it. Yet the genie is out of the bottle. So in the next 2 years, I think what's going to really shape where we're going is the legal world and the ethical world between these two worlds. We actually have no idea where this AI concept, and it's almost generic to say AI at this point. It is generic because we've been doing AI for years, but now we're talking very specifically about this category, but we don't know where it's going to go. So, what's going to shape it is going to be the retroactive restrictions that people are trying to put on it
mm.
and where it's going. That's one part. The second part, let me see. Just want to make sure. All right, I'll leave the second part for another question because
Ooh,
there's some new things coming up gadget wise that I think are interesting to talk about as well in terms of this is going to change everything. But in the AI world, I think not only are the capabilities going to grow, but the restrictions and the concerns and the problems are going to grow. And because this whole concept wasn't ready for prime time when it was discovered on November 30th, 2022, we we don't have a roadmap about where this is going to go.
yeah. And I'm sure ChatGPT is going to continue to evolve and shape our world as well. And you're absolutely right. We're not harnessing it, right? We're just responding to it and it's moving so incredibly fast.
So
These are
fast.
crazy times. All right, round three. Woo! All right, here we go. How are youth, because XYZ University, I am fascinated by next gen and youth studies. So, how are the youth of today being influenced by technology? Is this likely to change their approaches to learning and relationship building? We have people tuning in again from all over the world, but also people representing workplaces, corporations, as well as membership associations. So when we think about how are we learning, how are we community building, relationship building, how is technology changing that?
I'd love to have a longer conversation with you, particular, because
Mhm.
you're so well tuned into this. But here's what I'm feeling. Remember, I have no children. I have a bunch of cats, and I don't get out much except to go talk, and then I come home again. So keep that in mind as I tout my expertise. But I'm almost seeing a backlash to all the technology from younger people. They're
Right.
like, I'm kind of over social media and putting everything that I am out there for everybody to see at all times. They're relationship building inside of there. And so they're building true relationships, truer than we as people who aren't from their generation are understand, I believe. Like one of my nephews has online friends from all over the world. And their friends, we call them online friends, they drop the online part. So they're establishing these relationships, but I also see a backlash. We've seen a big backlash against Facebook. We've
Mhm.
seen a backlash against some of the other older social media things. So when it comes to things like Chat GPT, we're also seeing this sense of distrust that's being created in schools in terms of education. So instead of saying, how are we going to use this together? Right now, teachers are like, we're going to catch you. And students are like, I'm doing it right. I'm not going to be caught. But then there's this anxiety and there's that. So I think we've got a lot of discord and a lot of turmoil around where this technology is taking younger people and where it's going. And I think you've made this point too, we assume that younger people have a technology birthright knowledge that they don't have. Y'all, they're just as busy as everybody else. And so when you say, you're young, you should know all these things,
Mhm.
people are like, I'm busy. I haven't learned all these things. And so we've got that kind of disconnect too, where people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s later on in the generations are like, I shall ask the young people in the office and all will be good. And I think we're putting a lot of pressure on younger workers and younger people entering our professions to be the end all and be all of all the things technology when they're just, they're still trying to figure out, we're all still trying to figure out where we left our shoes this morning when we have to be at work in 10 minutes.
Right. Right on. Yeah, it is a fascinating, in a way, it's so sad to say, but it's true. Younger generations have been the guinea pigs of some of this technology evolution and the social media. We weren't testing this stuff out. We were just jumping in. And we're starting to see all kinds of, yes, some positive, but also some negative reactions. And now it's proven that some of that tech exposure has changed brain development and social development for young people. And it's proven, this is my little quirky stat for today, it's proven that their brains have developed differently for those ages 20 and under. And that's been tied to technology. So, wow. Talk about, I need one of those. Wow, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or we could
Little,
do this
little
one.
effects. Give me one of those. Yeah, there you go. I love it. I love it. Yes, it's fascinating. It's freaky. It's wild. Okay, just a reminder. I have a couple more questions for Beth, but then we'll open it up to audience. So, but get your questions in, and we're going to round four. Round four. All right. What technological advancement is underway? And you're in the trenches, you're going out, meeting with people, talking with people all the time about technology. What do you find is the most misunderstood? Like, we don't get it. We don't understand. What's advancing or already underway in people? People are lost and not leveraging it.
Well, the hilarious thing about this question, and I misread it, so I'm going to have to add something that's completely unrelated. Remind me to do
Okay.
that because I thought I could talk about this other thing here, but it's not here. We'll do it. Um, the funny thing about this question is people are always overrating. By the way, it's apparently the howling hour for the cat. So if you can hear it, sorry about that. Jeez. One of the things that has fascinated me, I've been speaking to associations and organizations and companies for a long period of time about technology. And there are some of us who say, well, it's not like we need to talk about how to manage your storage on your phone because everybody can already do that. They can't. They're lost. Some of y'all don't know that there's a flashlight on your phone, right? And this is not a anything to lessen you, but we kind of have come to the understanding that everything that we know, everybody knows.
Mm,
And that is not true. And this is hugely important for the AI period. I've been speaking about ChatGPT and the other technologies. I was ChatGPT before ChatGPT existed and just talking about what this meant. And I'm incredible. Sometimes people hire me and they're like, well, we don't want you to just talk about ChatGPT because everybody knows it. I'm like, they don't.
mm-mm,
They don't. It's not a universal language like how to put something in the microwave and get 30 seconds out of it. It's not that yet. And it's not going to be that for a while. So I know you speak sometimes to associations, and I do too. I tell associations, this is your time. Your people are lost. You're lost. You can put education and help on the table right now to move them forward because everybody is lost with these categories. Even if you've used some of these tools a little bit, you're lost. A second part of that is going back to the original question, what technological advancement is underway, but few people understand it.
yeah.
Here's the thing, ChatGPT is a place, it is a site, it is an app, it is a thing. But all these technologies are sprinkling the AI into what you do every day. And an example of this is many of us have predictive text on. So we're writing something, especially like LinkedIn. I know some of y'all are on LinkedIn with us, and it automatically writes what you think the response is going to be, what it thinks the response is going to be, and or it'll write a few words out, and it's like, we think you're going to say this, and I'm like, you don't know me, and then I'm like, oh, I guess you do. That is what I was going to say. So that predictive text just kind of snuck in there, and it's been there for years, and a lot of us use it. So what's happening with the Chat GPT area is that they are
Mm,
sprinkling it into the technology we already know and love. For example, on Google right now, you can enable the Google Lab, and inside Gmail, it says, help me write. You got ChatGPT just sitting there. Well, it's Bard, it's Google's version, just sitting there waiting for you to ask it for
mm,
help. In Canva, they have sprinkled in what they call magic design and magic edit. It's just sitting there. So one of the things that you should look for, and I don't have a little twinkle sign, but you'll see little icons that are like little stars, a little
yeah.
twinkle.
Mhm.
See that? You might not even know that it's already been added, but that's where they're showing up in different places.
Mm, like fairy dust.
Yes, this little sprinkle.
So that actually gives me a little bit more comfort because I have been one of those people that have been on the fringes of diving into ChatGPT. So no, not everyone knows about it. Not everyone's using it. And so, but that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable that those little sprinkles are actually there. And I may not have even observed it, but I am possibly, already using it without even realizing I'm using it. So wild,
Absolutely.
really wild.
Absolutely. And you just have to kind of pay attention. It may be just after an update, or it may be
Yeah.
like I have to investigate it, but the Galaxy just uh, did a new phone that has AI in it. What does that mean?
Mm,
Like, what little pieces are there? And those are the kind of things that are there that, like, it'll help you write an email, it'll help you write a text, it'll help you look up and get a generated response to a question rather than just links to sites that might answer the question.
yeah.
And all these little things are shifting. I remember back, and some of y'all may remember, have you heard of the Commodore 64 computer
Yeah.
from way back in the day, way back? The Commodore 64 computer was kind of the first home computer that really took off, but it still was very, oh, I saw some love from the Commodore 64 computer fans. It still was something that you had to know how to use it,
Mhm,
but it was starting to, right? And
mhm,
because before that, it was kind of the blank screen with the blinking cursor, and you had to know the code. You had to know what you needed to know. And you didn't even know what you needed to know to make things happen.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Bill, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, yeah, those people started putting a button instead of having to know what you didn't know. It was like, hey, do you want to bold this? Let's put a button. Hey, do you want to do a search on this? Let's put a button. And so we are going to see those buttons slip into what we're using every day. This is the Microsoft 365 Copilot and the Microsoft Windows Copilot that they're putting in there. And all of a sudden, it's just going to be a functionality that you don't have to go look for and you don't have to know what it can do. It's just going to say, push this button and I shall do it.
And it's just gonna be there.
Hmm.
It's gonna be wild. All right. Question 4. Round 4. Or sorry, 5, 5, 5. We're on 5. Woo! All right. What are some of the best ways organizations can leverage technology to engage their teams, communities, and inspire belonging? Beth, inquiring minds want to know. How are we going to use this? Now, obviously, ChatGPT, we've got robotics, that are cleaning our house, little iRobot vacuums, things like that. But in terms of, okay, how do we leverage this in 2024 and use it to our advantage to build communities?
Two things. First thing is kind of paradoxical. I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe it's backwards thinking. Don't start with the technology. In order to leverage the technology you need, start with the problem and then find the technology. A lot of people, myself included, start with, wow, look at this technology. How can I use it? And you come at it from a direction of, here's some really cool stuff. I would like to shove it into a system I have and make it work for me. And what I always emphasize is don't do what I do what I say. Start with a problem. Our email sucks. We're not good at it. We're not getting back to people fast enough. We have inconsistent messaging. We have inconsistent lead times. It's going to the wrong people. We have a problem with communication internally and externally to our members, to our employees. We have a problem. So instead of starting off with, hey, here's an email tool, you start with, hey, here's a problem. What technology can solve it? How can we expedite this? So, starting off with the problem to leverage technology versus the technology to leverage and find a problem is a much better way to approach this. So, that's one side. The second part is stay up on this. Stay up on this. Do not close your eyes. Do not say, well, we have given everybody ChatGPT, so we are done. ChatGPT was all yesterday, right? We don't know what's coming out. We don't know where it's going to be. You absolutely, you and your company need to you who are listening to us and people in your organization need to be the leaders and step forward and say, every 3 months, we are going to have 5 people meet, and these 5 people are going to have their eyes and ears open. We've identified the problems we have. We identified the ways we want to improve our company. And we're going to have 5 people who kind of keep their eyes open for what's going on. And then we're going to sit and evaluate what are the changes that have happened. Wow, Microsoft just lowered their price on this enterprise tool that will give us all of these capabilities. Great. Let's make that change. If you just lock into Chat GPT, give everybody the upgrade or something, and just keep going, you're going to miss those iterations. So start with the problem. That's the first thing. And then keep up with the solutions. That's the second thing.
Got it. Got it. Fantastic. Those are my questions for Beth. We have 5 minutes remaining. Let's do a quick speed round of audience questions. So I see one came in. What is one thing we should be optimistic about related to technology? Feel like there's a lot of fear around technology, especially around generational differences and associations.
What we should be optimistic about is focusing on the 30%. We've heard a lot of numbers about 30% of the workforce is going to go away, 20 to 30%, and it's going to replace these jobs. That's not how we need to look at it. And that's not really what's going to happen. Maybe 30% of the work you do will be speeded up and automated by some of these tools. So, what can a smart organization do with that other 30% of that valuable employee? Can we use it to move forward, have clear thinking time, get bigger ideas, get bigger content, get bigger plans? Can we give people more time off and get that relationship with our employees improved? So rather than trying to replace the 30% with more productivity, say, okay, every other Friday, we're not coming in, and giving more people that balance that they are seeking from you as an organization. And especially when you have, we've talked about this, I've talked about this a lot. Apparently, it's just by myself because this is not my topic. But younger people don't want to live and breathe work like
Right.
other generations have. And so, how can we use that to maximize our workforce rather than just getting rid of our workforce, which is very short sighted, or just using that to push more productivity from each person? By the way, Mike Chamberlain's here. Yes, Rhodey the Wonder Cat is right behind me right here.
And the person that just submitted that last question is a fan of your Nerd 365 calendar. So shout out to you and your calendar and your fan base. All right, behind the scenes, any other questions that have come into the queue?
Yeah, Sarah, actually, there's been some really good comments as well. I want to share people expressing they're excited to learn more about this topic today and are excited to move forward with some perspective. So there's been a lot of those type of sentiments out there.
Great.
Something I'm translating into a question here is it's kind of a comment. Younger people, as you mentioned, are starting to expect the real in quotes, starting to expect things to feel more real.
Yep.
But how do we leverage or balance that with our technology we're using to reach them?
How real is this? This is Rhodey the Wonder Cat, and
Yes.
y'all, I am not an AI avatar. I would not have the AI avatar with the cat on my head. So how can we balance the technology and put that? Oh, look, honey, you got some hearts by yourself. So cute. How can we keep things real? I think we're going to have to look at work as the hybrid situation that it almost was, that there were promises of, and that they went away. We're getting to where we're going to have more technology that makes it look like a hologram or an avatar. They're kind of creepy and weird right now, but eventually they're going to be a little bit better. And so we can use that type of technology to personify ourselves without actually being in the room and having a little bit more connection using some of those higher end things like what's happening with augmented reality and virtual reality with what Apple is doing, which is just mind blowing.
Yep.
I think we can marry those two things and bring together that technology to make us more human.
Yeah. Most definitely. And I feel like we could talk about this forever. And I'm sure there were other questions from the audience too, but our time is up. And I just want to say thank you, Bessie, for being my nerdy best friend. And hopefully for the audience, she's now yours as well. So thank you for joining me for this inaugural edition of Trends Talk. We will be back next month talking to a cutting edge event management and association management company to hear a little bit more about the trends on the horizon there. So, woohoo! Thanks so much, Beth. It was so enjoyable to be here with all of you today. Tune in next month. I'm Sarah Sladek. Bye.